Have you ever looked at a homeless woman wandering the streets and wondered who she was before life broke her? Most people see torn clothes. Most people see tangled hair. Most people see someone they call the mad woman. But very few stop to ask what happened to her. What if I told you she wasn't always like this? What if I told you she was once a beautiful wife, deeply in love with her husband, happily carrying their first child, and living the life she had always dreamed of? Then one act of betrayal destroyed everything. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. If you enjoy powerful stories filled with suspense, emotion, and unforgettable life lessons, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another inspiring story. For 5 long years, her husband searched every city, every hospital, every police station, and every shelter, never knowing the woman he loved was living just a few streets away. This is not just the story of a mad woman. It is the story of a wife's unbreakable love, a mother's unbelievable sacrifice, a husband's relentless search, and a shocking truth that changed an entire city forever. Stay with me until the very end, because after hearing this story, you may never judge another person by their appearance again. The Mad Woman. Have you ever walked past someone wandering the streets, talking to themselves, wearing torn clothes, and wondered who they were before life broke them? Most people see a mad woman. Very few stop to ask how she became one. But sometimes, behind the face everyone avoids is a story so heartbreaking that it changes the way you see people forever. This is the story of Leanne Parker. Years before people called her the Mad Woman, she was known for something completely different. She was known for her kindness. Leanne had the kind of smile that could brighten the darkest day. She believed in helping others, speaking gently, and finding joy in life's simplest moments. She never imagined that the same heart that loved so deeply would one day be shattered by the people she trusted most. Among everyone who admired her, no one loved her more than Jason Parker. Jason wasn't just her husband. He was her best friend. The day they stood before family and friends to exchange their wedding vows, it felt as though nothing in the world could ever separate them. As Leanne walked down the aisle in her white wedding dress, Jason couldn't hold back his tears. When she finally reached him, he gently took both of her hands and smiled. "I promise to love you through every season of life," he whispered. "Whether we have plenty or very little, whether life is easy or difficult, I will never leave your side." Leanne smiled through tears of happiness. "And I promise that wherever life takes us, you will never walk alone." Their families applauded as they exchanged rings. Everyone believed they were witnessing a love that would last forever. And for a while, it truly did. Their home quickly became a place filled with laughter. Jason never returned from work empty-handed. Sometimes he brought flowers, sometimes chocolates. Sometimes it was something as simple as Leanne's favorite snacks. It wasn't about the gifts. It was the thought behind them. Every evening they ate dinner together, shared stories about their day, laughed over little jokes, and ended the night praying side by side. To them, happiness wasn't measured by wealth. It was measured by having each other. Then, a few months later, another blessing arrived. Leanne was pregnant. The moment the doctor confirmed the news, Jason laughed, cried, and hugged his wife all at the same time. Carefully placing both hands on her growing stomach, he smiled. "Our little miracle is finally coming." From that day forward, Jason became even more protective. He attended every hospital appointment. He read parenting books late into the night. He painted the baby's room himself. Every evening before going to bed, he would kneel beside Leanne, place his hand gently on her stomach, and whisper, "I can't wait to meet you." Leanne often watched him with tears of gratitude. She believed she was the luckiest woman alive. Life felt perfect until one ordinary Tuesday evening. Jason came home carrying exciting news. His company had promoted him to Regional Operations Director. It was the biggest achievement of his career. The new position came with a higher salary, international benefits, and the opportunity to oversee the company's overseas operations. Leanne hugged him tightly. "I always knew you could do it." Jason smiled, but that smile slowly faded. "There is one problem," he said quietly. "I have to leave the country in 2 weeks." Silence filled the room. Leanne instinctively placed both hands over her pregnant belly. "Our baby will be born while you're away." Jason's excitement turned into guilt. He wrapped his arms around her. "I know this is difficult, but it's only for 1 year. I'll call every day. I'll visit whenever I can. Before you know it, we'll be together again." Leanne wanted to believe him. She truly did. But deep inside her heart, she felt a fear she couldn't explain. That evening, as they discussed plans for the months ahead, Jason made a suggestion that immediately unsettled her. "My mother can stay with you while I'm away." Leanne looked at him in silence. She chose her words carefully. "Jason, are you sure that's a good idea?" He smiled reassuringly. "She's my mother, I know, and she'll help take care of you until I return." Leanne lowered her eyes. She remembered every cold look, every harsh word, every criticism Joan had ever directed at her. She never felt welcomed. She never felt accepted. Still, she couldn't bring herself to complain. She didn't want to become the reason a son argued with his own mother. So she forced a small smile. "If it gives you peace of mind, I'll do my best." A few days later, the morning finally arrived. Jason stood at the airport, holding Leanne tightly in his arms. He kissed her forehead before gently touching her stomach. "Take care of Mommy until I come home," he whispered to the baby. Leanne smiled through tears. "We'll be waiting." Jason waved one last time before disappearing through the departure gate. Neither of them knew that it would be the last peaceful moment they would share for many years. Less than 2 hours after Jason's plane took off, a black car pulled into the driveway. Joan Parker stepped out carrying 2 expensive suitcases. She smiled warmly as Leanne opened the front door. "My dear," Joan said sweetly, "I've come to take care of you." Leanne smiled politely and welcomed her inside. For the first 2 days, everything seemed perfect. Joan cooked. She prayed with Leanne. She asked about the baby. She spoke with kindness. Slowly, Leanne began believing she had judged her mother-in-law too harshly. But kindness can sometimes wear a mask. And on the 3rd morning, just before sunrise, that mask finally came off. The nightmare was about to begin. At exactly 5 o'clock on the 3rd morning, a loud knock shattered the silence. "Leanne, wake up." Leanne opened her eyes in confusion. Outside her bedroom door stood Joan. Gone was the gentle smile. Gone was the caring voice. In her hands was a broom. "This compound won't sweep itself," she said coldly. Leanne stared at her in disbelief. "I'm almost 9 months pregnant." Joan folded her arms. "Pregnancy isn't sickness. Stop making excuses." That morning, Leanne swept the entire compound before sunrise. When she finished, Joan handed her a mop. After mopping the house, she was ordered to wash piles of clothes by hand. When she finished washing, Joan gave her money and a long shopping list. Walk to the market. By the time Leanne returned, her feet were swollen. Her back burned with pain. Her body begged for rest. Instead of sympathy, Joan frowned. "You're becoming lazy." The abuse continued every single day. Jason called faithfully every evening from overseas, but Joan always answered first. "Everything is fine," she would say. "Leanne is resting." By the time Leanne received the phone, she was too exhausted to explain what was happening. She forced herself to smile. "I'm all right." Jason wanted to believe her. He had no idea that every word was spoken through fear. Weeks later, Joan approached Leanne with another smile. "I found a wonderful prayer house," she said. The pastor there prays for pregnant women. Many have received miracles. Leanne's face brightened. She believed God had finally touched Joan's heart. The following morning, they drove to a remote compound on the outskirts of the city. The place felt strangely quiet. An elderly man dressed in white welcomed them inside. He smiled politely before placing a clay cup filled with a dark herbal mixture on the table. "This is part of the cleansing prayer," he said. Leanne hesitated. Something didn't feel right. Before she could refuse, Joan gently held her hand. "Drink it, my dear. It's for you and the baby." Trusting the woman she still called mother, Leanne drank every drop. Within minutes, the room began spinning. Her vision blurred. Her legs became weak. The voices around her faded into darkness. When she opened her eyes again, nothing felt the same. The strange drinks continued day after day. Joan insisted they were medicine. But with every cup Leanne drank, she became more confused. She forgot conversations. She forgot where she placed things. Sometimes she forgot what day it was. Neighbors began noticing the changes. Instead of helping, Joan spread lies. "My daughter-in-law is mentally unstable," she whispered. "Please pray for her." Little by little, people believed her. One stormy night, Leanne went into labor. She was rushed to the hospital. After hours of pain, she gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. The nurse placed the child gently into her arms. Leanne smiled through tears. "My precious son," she whispered. "I'll always protect you." She named him David. For a brief moment, the world felt beautiful again, but Joan's heart remained unchanged. Only 2 days after leaving the hospital, she resumed the abuse. Leanne was still recovering from childbirth. She could barely walk, yet Joan forced her to clean, cook, wash, and carry heavy loads while caring for a newborn baby. Every morning came another cup. Every evening came another lie. Leanne's memories faded further. One cold morning, Joan packed a small bag. "Come with me," she said. Still confused, Leanne carried David and followed her into the car. After nearly an hour, they stopped beside a crowded marketplace. Joan opened the door. "Get out." Leanne looked around in confusion. "Mother, why are we here?" Joan didn't answer. She simply waited. Leanne stepped onto the roadside with David in her arms. The car door slammed shut. The engine started. "Mother!" Leanne screamed as the car pulled away. "Please don't leave us." She ran after the moving vehicle with her newborn baby clutched tightly against her chest. But the car never stopped. When it finally disappeared, Leanne collapsed onto the roadside. People gathered. Some stared. Some whispered. No one knew the woman crying before them had once lived a life filled with love. As evening fell, rain began to pour. Leanne wrapped David inside the only blanket she had. She remained soaked so that her baby could stay warm. A kind shopkeeper quietly placed bread and water beside her. Leanne broke the bread into tiny pieces. She ate almost nothing. Everything she could save, she gave to David. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. The drugs, the trauma, the hunger, the loneliness slowly stole what remained of her memories. She forgot her home. She forgot her name. Sometimes she whispered Jason's name without remembering who he was. Her clothes became torn. Her hair became tangled. She wandered barefoot through Ashton City with little David holding tightly to her hand. To the people who passed by, she was no longer Leanne Parker. She was simply the mad woman. But even after losing almost everything, one thing never disappeared: a mother's love. Every morning she searched for food. Every night she held David close beneath an old mango tree. The world saw madness, but hidden beneath that broken mind was a mother still fighting with every breath to keep her little boy alive. Far away, Jason still believed his wife and son were waiting for him. He had no idea. 5 long years passed, 5 birthdays, 5 lonely Christmases, 5 years of unanswered questions. While Jason worked overseas, he called home every day during the first year. Every time he asked about Leanne, Joan told the same story. "She's getting better. She's resting. Don't worry about us." Jason believed his mother. He never imagined she was hiding a terrible secret. When his overseas assignment finally ended, he rushed home with excitement. His suitcases were filled with gifts. He had bought beautiful dresses for Leanne, toys for the little boy he had never met, and a gold necklace with the words "Forever Together" engraved on the pendant. During the drive home, he smiled the entire way. He imagined Leanne opening the front door. He imagined lifting his son into his arms for the very first time. He imagined the family they would finally become. But the moment he stepped inside the house, something felt wrong. The home was silent. The baby's room had never been used. The crib was covered with dust. The toys remained unopened. Jason's smile disappeared. He searched every room. Leanne? No answer. David? Only silence. His heart began pounding. He turned toward Joan. "Mom, where's my wife?" Joan lowered her head and pretended to cry. "I tried my best." "What do you mean?" After the baby was born, she started behaving strangely. One morning, she picked up the child and disappeared. We searched everywhere, but she was gone. Jason stood frozen. "No." He shook his head repeatedly. Leanne would never abandon our family. That same day, he reported both Leanne and the child missing. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. Jason hired private investigators. He printed thousands of missing person posters. He visited homeless shelters, hospitals, police stations, churches. Everywhere someone claimed to have seen a woman matching Leanne's description, Jason went himself. But every search ended the same way. Nothing. Unknown to Jason, the woman he was searching for walked the same streets he drove through almost every day. People no longer called her Leanne. They simply called her the Mad Woman. Despite her broken memories, she never let go of little David. Now 5 years old, David had become her protector as much as she was his. Every morning they sat beneath the old mango tree. Whenever kind strangers offered them food, Leanne always pushed it toward David first. She often went hungry so he could eat. David didn't understand why his mother spoke strangely or forgot things. To him, she was simply Mom. One Monday morning, Jason stopped at a traffic light near the city market. His eyes wandered toward the sidewalk. There they were, a barefoot woman with tangled hair. Beside her stood a little boy holding her hand tightly. Jason watched as David carefully brushed the dust from his mother's torn dress before helping her cross the road. Something about the child touched his heart. The traffic light turned green. Cars behind him began honking. Jason drove away, but he couldn't stop thinking about the little boy. The next morning, he took the same route. He saw them again beneath the mango tree. This time, he parked his car. He walked over carrying bags of food and bottles of water. David looked up with a shy smile. "Thank you, sir." Jason smiled back. "What is your name?" "David." "And your mommy?" The little boy pointed toward Leanne. "She forgets many things, but she's very kind." Jason looked at the woman sitting quietly beneath the tree. There was something strangely familiar about her eyes. He couldn't explain it. From that day on, Jason visited whenever he could. Sometimes he brought breakfast, sometimes clothes, sometimes storybooks for David. He never treated them with pity. He treated them with dignity. As the weeks passed, he noticed something else. Every morning, David stood outside a nearby school watching children in uniform walk through the gates. He never complained. He simply watched. Jason's heart broke. The following day, he visited the school principal. He paid David's school fees in full. He bought books, uniforms, shoes, and everything the little boy needed. "Please don't tell him who paid," Jason requested. I just want him to have a chance." When David wore his school uniform for the first time, his smile lit up the entire street. Even Leanne smiled. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but somehow, she knew someone had been kind to her son. Jason found himself growing closer to David every day. The little boy laughed the way Jason laughed as a child. He smiled the same way. Even his eyes looked familiar. One afternoon, while they played together in the park, Jason noticed a small birthmark behind David's left ear. His heart skipped a beat. The Parker men had carried that same birthmark for 3 generations. Jason touched the identical mark behind his own ear. "It can't be," he whispered. Before he could think further, David suddenly became dizzy. Within seconds, the little boy collapsed. Leanne screamed. Jason rushed forward, lifted David into his arms, and sped to the nearest hospital. Doctors quickly examined the child. A few minutes later, one of them hurried into the waiting room. "We need blood immediately." Without hesitation, Jason stood. "Take mine." As nurses collected blood samples for compatibility testing, Jason paced the corridor. Leanne sat nearby, holding David's little shoe against her chest. She couldn't stop crying. Minutes later, the doctor returned. His face looked unusually serious. He held a laboratory report in his hands. "Mr. Parker," he said quietly, "there's something you need to see." Jason had no idea that the next few moments would change his life forever. Jason stared at the doctor in complete confusion. "What is it?" The doctor looked down at the laboratory report before speaking. "Mr. Parker, the blood test revealed something we weren't expecting." Jason frowned. "What do you mean?" The doctor took a slow breath. "The child you brought to this hospital is your biological son." For a moment, the entire world stood still. Jason couldn't speak. He couldn't breathe. His hands trembled as he took the report from the doctor. His eyes moved across the page again and again. The result never changed. David was his son. Only one question remained. If David is my son, he slowly turned toward the woman sitting quietly outside the emergency room. Then she. His heart nearly stopped. He walked toward her with tears already filling his eyes. The woman everyone called the Mad Woman slowly looked up. Her tangled hair covered part of her face. Her clothes were worn. But behind all the pain, Jason saw the woman he had married. "Leanne," he whispered. She stared at him. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Jason gently held her trembling hands. Tears streamed down his face. "I found you." Leanne looked into his eyes. Something deep inside her seemed to awaken. She couldn't explain why, but hearing his voice brought a strange feeling of peace. Jason knelt before her. "I'm sorry. I wasn't here to protect you." Leanne reached out slowly and touched his face. Although her memories were still broken, her heart somehow remembered him. That same day, Jason transferred Leanne to a specialist rehabilitation center. The doctors explained that years of trauma, emotional abuse, and repeated exposure to unknown substances had severely affected her mental health. Recovery would take time. Jason never complained. Every morning before work, he visited. Every evening after work, he returned. He brought flowers. He read their old wedding vows aloud. He showed her photographs from happier days. He reminded her of the life they once shared. Little by little, the darkness began to fade. David visited every afternoon after school. He would hug his mother tightly and tell her everything he had learned in class. Sometimes Leanne smiled without understanding. Sometimes she laughed. Then, one afternoon, everything changed. Jason was reading from their wedding album when Leanne suddenly placed her hand over the photograph. Tears filled her eyes. "Our wedding," she whispered. Jason looked at her in disbelief. Another memory returned. The baby's room, the airport, Juan, the endless chores, the bitter drink, the lonely road where she had been abandoned with David. Leanne burst into tears. Jason held her tightly. You don't have to face those memories alone anymore. Weeks later, Leanne remembered everything. Every painful detail, every betrayal, every lost year. Jason knew there was one person who had to answer for it all: his mother. When confronted with the truth, Joan could no longer hide behind lies. She broke down in tears. "I never wanted you to marry Leanne," she confessed. "I thought she wasn't good enough for our family. I wanted you to leave her." Instead, she had destroyed the very family she claimed to protect. Jason reported everything to the police. Investigators reopened the case. Neighbors confirmed seeing Leanne forced to work while heavily pregnant. Witnesses remembered Joan spreading lies about her mental condition. The abandoned prayer compound was investigated. Former workers admitted they had participated in fake healing rituals that deceived vulnerable families. Piece by piece, the evidence confirmed Joan's confession. A few days later, police officers arrived at Joan's house. She didn't argue. She didn't run. She quietly surrendered. As officers led her away, she looked at Jason one last time. "I'm sorry." Jason lowered his head. "I forgive you." But forgiveness doesn't remove responsibility. Justice had finally been served. Months passed. Leanne continued her treatment. Her strength returned. Her smile slowly returned. Then came the day Jason had dreamed about for years. The three of them sat together beneath the same old mango tree where Leanne and David had once struggled to survive. Jason smiled at David. "There's something I've wanted to tell you." David looked up. "What is it?" Jason gently took his little hand. "You've called me sir for a long time." David nodded. Jason smiled through tears. "You don't have to call me that anymore. You can call me Dad." David stared at him for several seconds. Then his face lit up with the brightest smile Jason had ever seen. "Dad." The single word broke Jason completely. He pulled his son into his arms and cried openly. Leanne smiled through tears as she watched the two people she loved most embrace for the very first time. Several months later, their home was filled with laughter again. Every morning, Jason walked David to school. Every afternoon, Leanne waited at the front door to welcome him home. The nightmares didn't disappear overnight. Some scars remained, but they no longer controlled their lives. Love did. One sunny afternoon, the family returned to the old mango tree, the same place where strangers once walked past a homeless woman without knowing her story. Jason spread a picnic blanket beneath the tree. David laughed as he chased butterflies across the grass. Leanne looked up into the branches and smiled. 5 years ago, she whispered, "I thought my life had ended here." Jason gently held her hand. "No, it began again. The next time you see someone the world has forgotten, don't be too quick to judge. The person you call broken may be carrying a pain you cannot imagine, because every scar has a story. Every survivor deserves compassion, and sometimes the people the world calls mad are simply the people who survived what most of us never could. The next time you see someone the world has forgotten, don't be too quick to judge. Behind every broken person may be a story that was never their choice. Sometimes the people the world calls mad are simply people who survived more pain than most of us could ever imagine."